Earth had always been a quiet planet, hidden in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Its inhabitants, humans, were small in number, yet fierce in their resolve. For centuries, the stars had watched them evolve, conquer, and build. But now, the galaxy was on the brink of a war unlike any before. The Galactic Federation had made a grave mistake, underestimating the resilience of humankind. It all started with a single attack, a declaration of war from an unexpected source. The Federation had sent its fleets to Earth's borders, demanding surrender. But humanity, under the leadership of General Caleb Riker, refused to bow to their demands. The humans had never negotiated with terrorists before, and they would not start now. Riker stood firm, his resolve unshaken. Earth would not be a slave to anyone, not even the Federation. The Federation, thinking they could crush Earth's defenses in a matter of hours, didn't anticipate the power that lay dormant within the human spirit. Earth's ancient technologies, forgotten for millennia, had been quietly rediscovered in secret military labs. This was not just a battle of weapons, it was a clash of ideologies, and humanity was ready to fight for its freedom. Riker sat in the command center, the map of the galaxy flashing before him. His hands were steady on the console, eyes fixed on the battle plans. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered, his voice calm yet resolute. He knew that this wasn't just about saving Earth, it was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humans would no longer tolerate being treated as lesser beings. The Federation would learn the price of underestimating Earth. The battle began as the Federation fleet descended upon Earth's atmosphere. The ships were massive, like dark shadows blotting out the sun. Their weapons were unmatched, and their numbers overwhelming. But humanity had one thing the Federation didn't: ingenuity. Earth's fleet, newly upgraded with ancient technology, sprang into action. The first shot fired was not from the Federation, but from humanity. The war had begun. General Riker watched as the first wave of Federation ships was met with a barrage of human firepower. The ancient weapons, once thought useless, had been re-engineered into the most advanced artillery the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's ships, though smaller and fewer in number, fought with precision, each shot landing where it mattered. The Federation's arrogance was turning into fear. As the first few Federation ships exploded in a flash of light, Riker knew the fight was far from over. The Federation would retaliate with everything they had, but Earth's soldiers were not afraid. They had seen their cities burned, their families taken, and yet they still stood. This wasn't just a war for survival, it was a war for their future, and they would not back down. The Federation's retaliation came in the form of an unrelenting assault. Their ships moved with deadly precision, launching waves of fire that seemed to consume everything in their path. Yet, Earth's fleet dodged and weaved with skill, using their advanced technology to stay one step ahead. The humans were not fighting just for themselves, they were fighting for the generations to come. On the ground, civilians had begun to organize resistance movements. It wasn't just the military on the front lines anymore. People from all walks of life were fighting back. Scientists, engineers, teachers, and even children had begun to pick up arms and take the fight to the Federation's forces. This was no longer just a military conflict, it was a revolution. The Federation began to panic. Their fleets were losing ships at an alarming rate. But they refused to acknowledge defeat. They sent in their most powerful weapon, the Dreadnought. A massive warship capable of decimating entire cities with a single shot. It was their trump card, the weapon that would crush humanity's spirit. They didn't know, however, that humanity's spirit could never be crushed. General Riker was aware of the Federation's Dreadnought. He had seen its power firsthand and knew that it could destroy Earth with ease. But he also knew that it had weaknesses every weapon did. Riker devised a daring plan. They would take out the Dreadnought before it could even reach Earth. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. With the Dreadnought approaching, Riker ordered a fleet of Earth's most agile ships to launch a surprise attack. They would strike fast and hard, using the element of surprise to their advantage. The Federation's massive warship, though powerful, was slow. Humanity's fleet had learned to exploit that weakness. The first wave of Earth's ships zoomed past the Dreadnought, taking it by surprise. As the Dreadnought fired its devastating energy weapon toward Earth, Riker's fleet executed their plan with precision. Earth's ships weaved through the chaos, launching their most advanced weapons at the Dreadnought's weak points. It wasn't long before the mighty vessel began to crack, its shields failing. The Federation's greatest weapon was falling apart before their eyes. In the final moments of the battle, General Riker's fleet struck one last blow to the dreadnought, sending it into a spiral of fire and destruction. As the ship exploded in a blinding flash, the Federation's forces fell into disarray. The battle was over, Earth had won, but the war was far from finished. Riker knew that this victory was just the beginning. The message had been sent across the galaxy. Humanity would never negotiate with terrorists. Earth had fought back, and they had won. But this was only the first step in a long journey. The Federation would not forget this defeat, and they would come back stronger. But General Riker and his fleet were ready. Earth had proven that it was not to be underestimated, and humanity was prepared to defend its home at any cost. The battle for Earth had left scars across the planet, but the victory was a bittersweet one. Humanity had struck back against the Galactic Federation's forces, but the cost was steep. Cities lay in ruins, and countless lives had been lost. General Riker stood in the war room, looking at the holographic display of Earth. The war was not over. The Federation, humiliated by their defeat, was regrouping. They would come for Earth again. The Federation, smarting from their defeat, had quickly regrouped and prepared a new strategy. They were no longer underestimating humanity. They knew that Earth's resilience would be their biggest obstacle, and they were determined to break it. Their next move was swift and brutal, dispatching an entire fleet of dreadnought-class warships, far superior to anything humanity had faced before. General Riker's first instinct was to attack, to hit the Federation before they could strike. But he knew better. The Federation was learning. Every move they made was carefully calculated. Earth had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. Riker ordered his fleet to prepare for the worst. This time, Earth would need more than just advanced technology. They would need the will to fight until the very end. Back on Earth, the atmosphere was tense. The civilians who had once been hesitant to join the resistance were now ready. The Federation's actions had galvanized the human race. Every factory, every military base, and every resource on the planet was now mobilized for war. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival, it was fighting for its right to exist. Earth was no longer just a planet, it was a symbol of defiance. As the Federation's fleet approached Earth, Riker knew they had one advantage: the element of surprise. He had managed to infiltrate their communication networks, learning their tactics and strategies. For the first time, humanity had an edge. The Federation's arrogance had blinded them to the fact that Earth had learned to fight like them, using their own methods against them. The battle was about to begin. As the Federation's warships entered Earth's orbit, Riker's fleet moved into position. The humans were outnumbered, but they had something the Federation lacked: unity. Earth's forces were small, but every man, woman, and child on the planet was united in one singular goal: to protect their world. The Federation might have more ships, but humanity had something far more dangerous: heart. The first shots rang out as the Federation fired upon Earth's fleet. But this time, humanity wasn't caught off guard. They knew how to move, how to react, and how to outmaneuver their enemies. Earth's ships, though fewer, fought with precision. The Federation's massive warships, with their advanced weaponry, began to lose ground as Earth's forces employed hit-and-run tactics, using the terrain and space to their advantage. Riker watched from the command deck as his fleet tore through the Federation's forces, one ship at a time. It was a bloodbath, but the Federation was losing, and Riker couldn't afford to slow down. This battle would be humanity's defining moment. Every victory, no matter how small, was a step toward proving that Earth would never submit to tyranny. The Federation had underestimated Earth's resolve, and they would pay the price. In the middle of the chaos, Riker's fleet launched a surprise attack on the Federation's flagship, a massive dreadnought that had been leading their offensive. The ship was heavily armored and almost impervious to conventional weapons, but Riker had a plan. He knew that if they could hit the dreadnought's weak point, the engines, they could cripple it and send the Federation's fleet into disarray. The first wave of fighters plunged toward the dreadnought, weaving through enemy fire. Earth's ships fired with deadly precision, targeting the ship's weak points. The dreadnought fired back, its massive guns shaking the very stars, but the humans didn't flinch. They had been through too much to back down now. The plan was simple: hit the engines, take out the dreadnought, and shatter the Federation's morale. The battle intensified as the Federation's flagship began to show signs of damage. Earth's fleet, relentless and undeterred, moved closer. Riker's heart raced as the final wave of fighters closed in on the Dreadnought's engine bay. The Federation's flagship, once thought to be invincible, was crumbling. And with that, Earth's forces launched their final assault, pushing every last ounce of strength into one final, decisive blow. As the Dreadnought exploded in a burst of light, the Federation's fleet was thrown into chaos. The battle raged on, but it was clear, Earth had won. The Federation's pride had been shattered, and their forces were retreating. But Riker knew this victory came at a cost. Earth's fleet was severely damaged, and their fight wasn't over. The Federation would rebuild, but humanity would be ready. This battle was only the beginning. With the Federation retreating, Earth had won a major victory. But the war was far from over. General Riker knew that the Federation would return, more prepared and more determined than ever. Earth had proven that it would never surrender, but the coming battles would be even harder. Humanity had taken its first step toward liberation, but there was still a long road ahead. The victory over the Federation's flagship was a turning point, but it was also a message. Humanity would never negotiate with terrorists. The galaxy had seen Earth's defiance, and the Federation would have to reckon with it. But Riker knew that Earth had no choice but to keep fighting, to keep resisting, and to keep proving that the human spirit could never be broken. Earth had won this battle, but the war was far from over. As Riker stood before the holographic map of the galaxy, he couldn't help but think of the countless lives lost. The war had taken its toll, but humanity had endured. He looked at the faces of his crew, the men and women who had given everything to defend Earth. They had won this battle, but the Federation would return. Earth was ready and humanity would fight again. The war had raged on for years, but the Federation's advances had finally stalled. After countless battles, Earth had managed to push the alien forces back to the edge of the galaxy. General Riker stood at the helm of Earth's fleet, staring at the stars. Victory was close, but the Federation was not going to surrender quietly. Their most powerful weapons were being deployed, and the final battle for Earth was about to begin. The Federation had sent their elite troops, the Reaver's fierce soldiers, genetically enhanced for battle. These soldiers were faster, stronger, and more dangerous than anything Earth had ever faced. The Federation's plan was simple. They would launch a final assault with everything they had, and Earth's defenses would crumble. But Riker knew this was humanity's last chance. There would be no retreat, no surrender. The Federation's fleets emerged from the dark corners of space, vast and intimidating. Riker's fleet was outnumbered, but Earth had learned to fight with strategy, speed, and adaptability. Humanity's most advanced ships, armed with the ancient weapons of their ancestors, moved into position. Riker gave the order, and the battle for Earth's future began. The final fight for humanity's survival had begun. The first wave of Federation ships collided with Earth's fleet like a tidal wave, overwhelming the outer defenses. The space around Earth became a sea of explosions, debris, and chaos. Yet, despite the massive size of the Federation's forces, Earth's fleet fought back with everything they had. Riker's tactics were unconventional, relying on hit-and-run maneuvers and using the planet's gravitational field to their advantage. As the battle raged in the void of space, humanity's resistance on the ground intensified. Civilians and soldiers alike fought with unrelenting fury. The Federation had underestimated the human spirit, believing they could crush Earth's will to fight. But the more the Federation pressed their attack, the stronger humanity's resolve became. This was more than a fight for survival, it was a fight for the soul of Earth itself. General Riker's fleet managed to destroy several key Federation warships, but the Reavers were relentless. They boarded Earth's ships, engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat. These genetically enhanced soldiers were nearly unstoppable, but the humans on Earth's ships fought with ferocity born of desperation. Every soldier knew this could be their last battle, but they fought for their planet, their families, and their future. Amidst the chaos, Riker realized that Earth's only hope was to destroy the Federation's flagship, the heart of their fleet. If they could destroy the flagship, the Federation's forces would fall apart. It was a daring plan, one that would require every last bit of humanity's strength. Earth's fleet rallied around the plan, knowing that this was their only chance to win. The Federation would not take Earth without a fight. The final assault on the Federation flagship began as Riker's fleet charged forward, firing their weapons with precision. The Federation flagship was heavily shielded, but humanity's weapons had evolved, and Earth's fleet was no longer the underdog. Every ship, every soldier, fought with everything they had. The Federation's arrogance had blinded them to humanity's potential. Now, they would feel the consequences. As the battle reached its climax, Riker's fleet pushed through the Federation's defenses. The flagship was in sight, and the countdown to victory had begun. Earth's forces launched one final, coordinated strike. The Federation flagship's shields began to flicker, then falter. It was clear the flagship was going down. But even as the ship exploded in a flash of light, Riker knew that the Federation would not be defeated so easily. With the destruction of the flagship, the Federation's remaining forces faltered. Their leadership was in chaos, and their morale shattered. The battle was over, but the cost had been high. Earth's fleet had been severely damaged, and many lives were lost. Yet, humanity had won, the Federation's forces retreated, and Earth stood victorious. The war was over, but Earth had paid a heavy price for its survival. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy was forever changed. The Federation had learned a valuable lesson. Humans would never negotiate with terrorists. Earth had proven that its spirit was unbreakable, its resolve unyielding. The Federation had underestimated humanity's capacity for resistance and survival. Now, Earth would rebuild, stronger than ever before, knowing that the fight for their future was far from over. General Riker looked out over the Earth from the command deck, his face solemn. The war had taken its toll on everyone, but Earth had survived. The Federation would rebuild, but humanity would be ready. They had proven that no matter the odds, they would fight back. The fight for Earth's future was far from over. But with the lessons learned from this war, humanity was more prepared than ever before to defend their home, their freedom, and their future. The victory over the Federation was not just a win for Earth, it was a message to the galaxy. Humanity would never bow to any alien empire, no matter how powerful. Earth's defense had been won, but the true victory was in showing the universe that humans would never negotiate with terrorists, nor would they allow anyone to threaten their way of life again. The galaxy now knew humanity was not to be underestimated. As Riker gazed at the stars, he knew that Earth's place in the galaxy had forever changed. Humanity had proven itself capable of defeating the mightiest of enemies. But the future was uncertain. The Federation was not gone for good. They would regroup, rebuild, and attempt to reclaim what they had lost, but Earth was ready. Humanity had learned from this war, and they would never forget what they were capable of. The message was clear: Earth would never surrender. Humanity would always rise to the challenge, no matter the odds. The war was over, but the battle for the galaxy had just begun. Earth had won this fight, but there would be more battles to come. Humanity had proven that, together, they could achieve anything. And they would continue to fight, not just for their survival, but for their place in the universe.